Trump truths something like this, saying, hey, you know, DeSantis, you haven't experienced kind of this, I don't know the exact words, but basically saying like, you may experience this in the future, like what I'm experiencing now, this like persecution or the media coming after you and so on. Do you think this one-sided political persecution using our justice system is something that a lot of people care about who aren't, you know, super conservative people? Because some people say, oh, you know, Trump has more of like the right-wing base, but DeSantis could win because he's going to get all these other center people and all this. I'm concerned, though, because I kind of feel like our country is so divided that I'm not really sure how many people that would be in that kind of center part that might be the people who DeSantis would win over. And if he's kind of giving up a lot of the more of the base who might care about these kind of issues, like how do you think that would play out?
My case for DeSantis is he does not drive out Democrat turnout the way Trump does. So Trump drives out Republican voter turnout in a way that no one has ever seen, and he also drives out Democrat voter turnout in a way that no one has ever seen. If you look at the Florida election, Democrat turnout was kind of abysmal. So if DeSantis were somehow able to run in the general, then it wouldn't be a gimme election for him, but Democrats would be much less interested in coming out to vote en masse for him. So it would be better for the Republican House. It'd be better for Republican Senate if DeSantis were running in the general, not because he would turn out the Trump level numbers, but because he wouldn't turn out the Trump level Democrat numbers. And that's what I think a lot of people who argue against DeSantis maybe and say, but Trump can bring out these low propensity voters, which I've said for years, sure he can. He's also the greatest vote turnout person that Democrats have ever seen in their lives.
Interesting. Yeah. I don't know. It's hard because I feel like the Democrats have a little bit more of this mail-in ballot machine since COVID now. So I'm worried that their turnout wouldn't necessarily go down. Like if our turnout goes down, I don't know how much their turnout would go down. And I feel like we have to just like meet them in terms of turnout. But I mean, for sure, I'm sure that a lot of the media, because of the way they painted Trump too, would get more people to turn out on their side, like in person too. But if they paint if they paint DeSantis as like another Trump and the same vilification, like you were saying, I'm just like concerned that would lead to a situation where then they just have a lot of turnout and then we don't if our side isn't as excited.
Yeah, the issue is it won't work for what they're going to do to DeSantis. It just isn't going to work. That's why even towards the end of Trump's presidency, the attacks didn't work as well as they used to, because you'd heard everything. And at some point, you're just not buying it. In terms of the Democrat ballot harvesting machine, that works. And that will be more effective than ever, but that's still limited to, again, a lot of the urban areas. So we've kind of seen it. Atlanta, Wisconsin, which is, Georgia you have to fight for. But Kemp won Georgia massively. That we had a midterm election. Kemp was able to win. There was, I believe she was a treasurer in Arizona. She was able to win. There are people who are able to win elections who aren't able to be presented so divisively, I guess. Because, DeSantis will be divisive. Everybody who runs is divisive. Mitt Romney killed his dog, right? Let's admit that they're going to try to make him look like this awful person. But he's also not giving him anything. So the thing that, even though it shouldn't matter, and it does, though. And I think that's one of the reasons I come to conclusions other people maybe don't, is I think this is stupid. And I don't think it should matter, but it does. It matters that when you supported Trump, you never knew what you were going to wake up to. Another tweet, another comment, another this, another that. There's a certain amount of fatigue that drives away people from supporting him. And with DeSantis, you know what you're going to get. You know that if you wake up tomorrow, there's not going to be some tweet that could be twisted in an awful way, or that might on its face look bad. And then, because remember, Trump would say things that sounded pretty not good. And then it would be 2 or 3 days of him explaining why it wasn't really what you thought it was or what it read as. With DeSantis, you're not going to get that. So he's not giving them more material. You can always dig stuff up about a person's past. But
Sure.
but if you're presenting an image that's incongruent with who he is now, nobody's going to believe it. You're going to say, "Oh, so DeSantis was like some weird groomer," and nobody's going to.
No, I don't think it would be that. It would be more that he's not really doing as much on kind of this issue now with the political persecution, or maybe is kind of falling into almost what Trump has accused DeSantis of. He's truth that, oh, DeSantis, you're a Paul Ryan, you're this, you're that, and so he's kind of playing into that almost, as opposed to some people claimed that DeSantis is Trump just without the baggage. So a little bit of maybe what you were saying, where he's not going to tweet something that makes you uncomfortable. But I don't really feel like he is Trump without the baggage. I think he is actually different. He's a different kind of politician, and he may have different views on things, I think, honestly. So it's not that you're getting Trump without the baggage, in my opinion. But what do you think?
I wouldn't call him Trump without the baggage. I would call him somebody who's interested in governing and using his power. He's more of a right-wing Bill Clinton. It was famously said of Bill Clinton that he actually enjoyed being president, and he wanted to govern, and he wanted to move the levers of government, even if many people on our side, myself included, might not agree with what he was doing, but he actually enjoyed being president. With Trump, there was never even the people who work for him, they maybe won't say it publicly, but they'll say it privately to you if they haven't already. He didn't go in and say, wow, this is interesting. It's time. Let's get to work. How do I do things? He never really had this interest. He was still running. When he was president, he was still acting as if he was still running, that everything was done via media. Everything was done via Twitter. When you have to do policy procedure, you have to know how the bureaucracy works. You have to know where the levers are. So one great example of DeSantis is he said there's this there's this college in Florida. They're not really doing anything. It's some far left wing weirdo thing. Well, we have the building. They have a budget. Why don't we just put Christian Rufo and a bunch of people in there and try to make a new college? And okay, brilliant, right? Brilliant. That's DeSantis getting into the weeds, going in. Why aren't we doing this? So you could imagine DeSantis day one as president saying, okay, how can I fire everybody that is bad? And people would go, well, there's going to be problems. And he would say, well, because sure, there's going to be problems. There's always going to be problems. But give me some memos. Let me figure this out. How do I hire people who are actually good? Well, let's figure that one out. How do I enact legislation? Well, he's done that as governor. He's actually done that. Here's how you have to deal with. Here's the decision makers. Here's the way you have to broker deals. That's DeSantis. Is he actually wants to be president because he wants to govern, and he's willing to get into the weeds on these issues.